So today, I'm afraid with the soundtrack of the neighbour's dog barking madly, I'm going to do a quick video on the differences between the early ZE0 Nissan Leaf and the later AZE0, which also covers the AZE0L from 2015 onwards. But visually, and from the customer's point of view, there are some major differences which stand out, which make them easy to spot. Here's the here's the ZE0 to start with. It has the small top to the motor, which means that the onboard charger is actually in the boot of the car underneath the hump. It also has the small 12-volt battery. Those are the two main visible differences here, and we'll segue across to the AZE0 to show you the big square top on the motor and also the bigger battery. As an aside, the programming on these has a better protocol for the 12-volt battery, which means that as well as being bigger, it's charged better by the system. There are some other obvious differences inside. This one is my daily car, so it's a bit full of rubbish, but the ZE0 came with an electric park brake and this light coloured interior that does actually stretch through into the seats, but I've got heated seat covers on mine for obvious reasons. During the winter it saves a massive amount of heating, because that's another difference. The wet PTC heater on these ZE0s is hugely inefficient, so reducing the amount of use that it gets is beneficial. It also has manual release for both the bonnet and the charging flap. The AZE0, and therefore obviously the AZE0L, is typified by the dark interior. This one is a techy, so it has the full leather trim. Some lower models have a cloth trim. It only has the one release inside here manually, which is for the bonnet, and it has a electric release for the charge flap. They've also moved across to a foot operated parking brake on these models, so those differences make it a lot easier to spot. I will, if there's not too much rubbish in my boot, show you the charger. There is too much rubbish, but I can just show it to you. So yeah, these ones with the charger in the boot, there's this massive great big hump between the two rear wheel arches. That has the charger built underneath it and some other gubbins. A little bit dusty, I'm afraid. We were out spotting the clips yesterday. So here on these later ones, they don't have that hump between the arches, and it makes the boot a lot bigger and a lot more usable. There are some other minor visual differences which I'll just run through quickly. So the ZE0 has a separate plinth bolted to the front bumper, which carries the number plate. The AZE0 onwards has the plinth built into the bumper. Now I'm having to show you this damaged one because when we hit a deer, the only bumper I could readily get was a ZE0 one, and it didn't come with the plinth, so I've just fixed the number plate straight to the bumper. But it also has two separate chrome trims on it either side, whereas the later model, which would have the earlier model, which doesn't have the built-in plinth, which has the separate plinth, this chrome trim, even though you can't see it because it's hidden behind the number plate, goes all the way across. So if you are sourcing parts for one, try and make sure you get them for the right vehicle, because this involved quite a lot of mental agility and getting the chrome trims resolved, which wasn't the world's easiest task. So yeah, those are the major differences. The Euro spec AZE0s come with a heat pump, and you can tell the heat pump because it's got this nest of pipes, whereas the earlier cars don't have a nest, or the models without the heat pump. So here we've got just the one pipe, and yes, there's obviously the difference here with the motor tops, but there are some specifications of AZE0 which don't have a heat pump. I haven't yet encountered any in Europe, but I gather it's relatively common in America, and I haven't encountered many native market Japanese apart from this ZE0. So that's the other huge difference, is that the first cars up until about 2012 were built in Japan, even when it was for the British market. So the chassis number starts JN1, and then they all go FAAZE0 after that. But here, the later UK made ones, and they haven't put a sticker in the door shut to show us that, but we do have the one in the windscreen. So the later cars, just trying to find it, here we go. They start SJN and then they go into FAAZE0. Now the fact that both of them have ZE0 in the chassis number can confuse some people, but the differences are very obvious. There are other things like 17-inch wheels instead of 16-inch wheels, obviously different size tyres to go on them. These later spec ones can have 360-degree cameras. So there's one hidden in here in the front emblem as well. None of the ZE0 that I've encountered have the camera built in, so it's just a straight emblem, and therefore none of them have the 360-degree camera because there's nothing in the mirrors either. But again, lower spec AZE0 don't necessarily have the all-round camera, and therefore don't have the cameras in the mirrors and in the front emblem. So those are the major differences. Many bits are exactly the same, but there are a few detail differences, especially when it comes to the tech, because these later cars have better programming for 12-volt battery charging. They're more efficient naturally anyway because of newer programming. They have the heat pump generally, which helps. There's more regeneration on the braking system, etc. So yeah, there's some very big differences which can be disguised underneath a chassis number that looks the same, but the start of it is a very big giveaway, because the Japanese model, or the Japanese built cars, all start JN1, and the English built cars, and obviously this covers European models only because the American versions have a completely different start to their chassis number sequence as well. These ones start SJN, so there you go.